Our next step along the software engineering journey is going to be design, software design. So we've gone through requirements, we've done the requirements. The requirements naturally lead into the specifications, which are again are just sort of more of the technical requirements. From the specifications, we then move down into architecture. We have sort of an idea with the requirements and specifications, so we try to come up with a large game plan. How are these giant modules, how are they going to interact with each other? How are the subsystems going to be divided? But through that, we haven't actually talked about things like what code are we going to use? What actual software are we going to use? What database software are we going to use? And that is where this next step comes in. And that is going to be design. So design is a step where we start applying our plan and idea to the real world solutions. So what I mean by real world solutions is we start coming up with how do we take our architecture, our overall plan, and how do we design it? How do we come up with different solutions to create that architecture? So if our architecture, for example, called for a backend server, so let's see, we'll do like a server sort of symbol there. And then we have in front of that, we have maybe some sort of controller class and then maybe a web page. Maybe that's how our thing is. We're doing like a model view controller sort of thing. So what technologies are we going to use? What's our backend going to be? Is it going to be running on a maybe Linux based operating system? And from that, is our server going to be running some database? Maybe something like MySQL. What's our middle going to be? Is it going to be the JavaScript? Is it going to be maybe on the server itself? Maybe something like PHP, or which is sort of on both these, which is why it's usually a middle thing. It could be on the web page, but it actually executes server commands. So maybe it's a PHP controller class. And on our web page, is it going to be HTML? Is it going to be a framework? Maybe we're using something like, if you've heard of it, WordPress, which is just sort of a framework. It's like a drag and drop front end creator, or even a company like Wix, Wix, is a company where you can sort of drag and drop and design your solutions, but it kind of covers all of this as well. So maybe that's an idea. So you can see that we've kind of come up with this overall plan of how we wanted to set things up, even if it's more complicated with, a whole bunch of boxes moving different ways and stuff. And now it's time to look into each one of these boxes and determine what is the real world solution that is going to solve that. Now, again, just like in the requirements where we didn't want to overstep our bounds and accidentally walk into the design has a limitation too. We don't want to accidentally walk into the implementation, which is the next step down here. Design is not coding, and coding is not design, meaning we are not starting by building the framework out or anything like that. All we're trying to do is come up with what real world solutions exist, what do we need to create, what technology are we going to use to create that, and what's sort of our game plan of doing that. That's design. Now, of course, you can do a little exploratory coding here and there, see if an idea works, be like, yeah, these 3 lines of code here, they do what I think, so we're going to put that in design. There isn't like a strict limit here, but what we're saying is don't jump straight into the coding from this step. That is not what design is. Design is purely coming up with a more detailed plan from the architecture. And also, whenever we talk about design, we also have to understand that it has sort of a dual meaning here. Design is both the activity and the product. So the activity is working to design a software. That's where you have a team of people, and they are all actually actively working on, coming up with how this software should interact. So we've got a team of people here, how the software should interact. Now, the product is also the design. It's the design document. And so it's a noun, meaning that it's the document itself. It's the final product, something that you could hand to someone else and they'd understand how exactly your software works. So whenever we talk about designs, we kind of talk about those two things. We're both designing the product and we're creating a design for the product. Next step, we're going to start going into the stages of design, going into what questions we need to ask and what problems we need to solve.